Welcome to this video on data blending. You can download the exercise workbook to follow along in your own copy of Tableau. Imagine you own two retail chains, Office City and Coffee Chain. You capture your Office City data in Excel and your Coffee Chain data in an Access database. How can we bring these disparate data sources together in order to perform an analysis across both retail chains? Data blending allows us to combine data from multiple data sources into a single view in Tableau. Before we dive any deeper, let's stop and discuss the basic requirements for data blending. Take a look at the data pane in the upper left-hand corner. We have two data sources, Office City and Coffee Chain. We can easily switch between the two and notice how the dimensions and measures change. Data blending requires at least one common field between both data sources. If you are familiar with database joins, these common fields function as a joining clause. Instead of joining the data at the row level, however, data blending sends separate queries to the separate data sources and aggregates the results to a common level back in Tableau. In our current example, we have a state field in both Office City and Coffee Chain. These fields have at least one common member. If the field names are different but have common members, we can manually define their relationship. We know that region from Office City and market from Coffee Chain both contain the values Central, East, South, and West. So let's define the two fields as equivalent. We'll go to the Data menu, select Edit Relationships. Let's change the primary to be Office City. Select Custom and add a relationship. We'll choose Region and Market. Notice that Tableau has established a relationship between the two fields and also lists the automatic relationship State. We'll cancel this. And alternatively, we could rename the field in one data source to match the other. If they have the same name, like State, Tableau will create the relationship between both data sources. Let's right-click and rename Coffee Chain's Market as Region. Now that our common fields are defined, we're ready to start blending. First, select the Office City data source. We'll drag Office City Sales to the Columns shelf and State to the Rows shelf. Note that there is now a blue check mark next to Office City in the data window. Whenever we are connected to multiple data sources in Tableau, the first data source we bring into the view becomes the primary, denoted by this blue check mark. Now let's switch to the second data source, and notice this orange linking field next to State. Since we already brought State into the view, Tableau will automatically blend on it, denoted by the orange link. There is also a gray broken link next to the Region field. Because Region is a common field between both data sources, it is another potential linking field that's not being used in the current view. If we wanted to also blend on this field, clicking the gray link activates it and creates the relationship. Let's complete our data blend by dragging Coffee Chain Sales onto Columns. We now see there's an orange check mark both next to the Coffee Chain in the data window and on the pill. This allows us to distinguish between our primary and secondary fields in the view. What's going on in this view? Tableau uses the orange link field, State, to determine which rows of data are brought in from each data source. By blending on State, we have told Tableau to check for shared members, or states, across both data sources. We see sales information for every state from Office City because Tableau returns information for all field members in the primary data source. Notice, however, that we are missing sales information for several states in the Coffee Chain data source. When Tableau queries the secondary data source, it only returns information for field members that are shared with the primary. As a result, there are blanks for states like Alabama and Arizona that are present only in the Office City primary data source. We can think of this as a simulated left join. It's important to note that primary and secondary sources are determined on a worksheet-by-worksheet basis and are not maintained globally through the workbook. When we're on a new sheet, the data sources in the data pane do not have those orange and blue check marks to indicate them as primary and secondary. The relationships we established are not carried over. This allows us to create different types of data blends on a worksheet-by-worksheet basis. What happens when we swap our data source and use Coffee Chain as the primary and Office City as the secondary? We'll drag Coffee Chain sales out to the view first, and we'll bring out state. Now we'll switch to Office City and bring out Office City sales. There are now only about half the states on the view compared with our previous example. This is because Coffee Chain has fewer states in its dataset than Office City. Tableau is displaying data for all the states in Coffee Chain, then pulling in information from Office City only for the relevant states. This means that any state in Office City that is not in Coffee Chain will not be displayed in the view. Thank you for watching this data blending video. Please watch the additional data blending topics, as well as our other on-demand training videos, to learn more about using Tableau.